I'm not telling you this as just some story. I'm telling you this because that night, it still comes back every single year. People think Christmas is all about happiness, right? The bright lights, the trees, the presents, and everyone smiling. But I saw a different side of Christmas. I saw it for what it truly is when the night gets too quiet, when the cheer fades into something much, much colder. This happened a few years ago. I was living alone, way out in a remote area, far from the city. It was the kind of place where winter just silences everything. Not far from my house stood this old abandoned building that everyone called the Christmas house. It was famous for one strange thing. Every year during Christmas week, all of its lights would suddenly turn on, even though no one had lived there for decades. The locals all warned me, stay away from that house. Winter shadows live there. Of course, I just brushed it off as local folklore. That Christmas Eve was colder than any I could remember. The snow wasn't falling in a flurry. It was drifting down slowly, deliberately, as if it were trying to bury the world. The wind howled outside, but it didn't sound like wind. It sounded like something crying in the dark. I was alone, just watching the clock as it crept closer and closer to midnight. And then, the doorbell rang. At that hour, in the middle of a snowstorm, who could possibly be out there? My heart started pounding in my chest. I hesitated, but my curiosity got the better of me. I opened the door. There was no one there, just the endless, empty snow. But resting on my doorstep was a small gift box. It was wrapped in bright red paper with a perfect white ribbon, and a little note was tucked on top. The note simply read, "For you." My heart was hammering now. I picked it up. It was freezing cold, colder than the snow it was sitting in. Back inside, with all the lights on, I tried to calm my nerves. I put the strange gift on the table and carefully opened it. Inside was a small Christmas bell, the kind you'd hang on a tree. But there was something off about it. This bell wasn't normal. The moment my fingers touched its cold metal surface, it rang on its own. A single, sharp, chilling jingle echoed through the silent house. A shiver ran down my spine. I instinctively looked toward the window. Outside, in the freshly fallen snow, there were footprints, small ones, like a child's footprints, leading away from my door. But no one was there. The yard was completely empty. Then the bell in my hand rang again and again, louder this time. That's when I heard it. A voice from outside carried on the wind. Ho, 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 but it wasn't the jolly sound you'd expect. Like blood slowly soaking through glass. And from the darkest corner of the room, a shadow began to emerge. It was tall, twisted. It was wearing a long red coat. But this was not Santa Claus. Its eyes were black, hollow pits. Its smile was stretched far too wide, unnatural and predatory. It took a slow step closer, and its whisper filled the room. Children wait for gifts, but some gifts demand souls. I turned and ran for the door, fumbling with the lock. It wouldn't open. I tried the windows. They were frozen solid, sealed shut. Behind me, the bell rang again, louder and more frantic now, with every single ring. One small figure stepped forward, and a soft, tragic voice whispered, "We waited for Christmas." But no one ever came. I tried to scream, to make any sound at all, but my voice was gone. My throat was tight with terror, and then absolute silence. The next thing I knew, I was opening my eyes. It was morning. The sun was up, and snow was still falling gently outside. The house looked completely normal. The lights were on. The door was unlocked. It was as if nothing had happened. But in my hand, I was still clutching the bell, and carved into its side in tiny, jagged letters were the words, "See you next Christmas." Even now, all these years later, every Christmas night, when the wind blows just right and the world gets quiet, I hear it, a faint bell ringing in the distance. And I know the truth. Some gifts should never, ever be opened. Thanks for listening. If you enjoy stories that linger in the shadows, make sure to subscribe.